गिरिजा शंकर नमः शिवाय वेदांत विज्ञान विवेक पूर्ण परमार्थ पात्रम पतिके निधत्तम परमार्थ लोको विवेन लाभा सोयं सदानंद महानुभावा भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा राधे 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 गोविंदा राधे 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 गोविंदा राधे 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 गोविंदा राधे 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 गोविंदा राधे 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 गोविंदा राधे 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 गोविंदा 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 राधे 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 Radhe 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 Shiva 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 Shambho Shiva 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 Shambho Shiva 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 Shambho Shiva 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 Shambho Mahadeva Shambho Mahadeva Shambho Mahadeva Shambho Mahadeva Shambho Shiva 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 Shambho Shiva 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 Shambho Shiva 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 Shambho Shiva 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 Shambho Om Namah Shivaya 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 Nagendra Haraya Trilochanaya Bhasmangaragaya Maheshwaraya Nityaya Shuddhaya Digambaraya Tasme Nakaraya Namah Shivaya Bhaj man Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe 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 Om
Namah Shivaya. Get your hands up, everybody. Get all that energy up. Let's go. Om Namah Shivaya. Sing it. Om Namah Shivaya. Sing it from your core. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. We're going to do everything together. Om Namah Shivaya. Come on, with power. Om Namah Shivaya. Feel it in your core. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Har 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 Shambho Mahadeva Shambho.
Har 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 Shambho Mahadeva Shambho.
Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho.
Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho.
Now I'm trying to take you to a different field. Oh, जटा झूठ में जटा झूठ में जटा झूठ में झूठ बढ़ा दे. जटा झूठ में गंग विराजे विराजे विराजे. जटा झूठ में गंग विराजे माथे अर्ध चंद्रमा साजे साजे साजे. हो गले में तेरे नाग विराजे. गले में तेरे नाग विराजे है. गले में तेरे नाग विराज. डम डम डमरू बाजे. बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय. ओम नमः शिवाय. ओम नमः शिवाय.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Again. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. महादेव महाकाल है शंभो. तीसरा नेत्र बहुत भयंकर. महादेव महाकाल है शंकर. तीसरा नेत्र बहुत भयंकर. तांडव नृत्य करे मेरा भोला. तांडव नृत्य करे मेरा भोला. तांडव नृत्य करे मेरा भोल. डम डम डमरू बाजे. बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय. ओम नमः शिवाय.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
I want you all, I want to feel this.
Anybody that wants
Om
to
Namah
come
Shiva.
on stage, come on.
Everybody who wants to feel the energy of Shiva are free to come on the stage. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. जय जय शंकर भोले शंकर जय जय शंकर भोले शंकर जय जय शंकर भोले शंकर जय जय शंकर जय जय शंकर भोले 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 ओम नमः शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय
शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः
Alright, so I want to hear just the Om Namah Shivaya. I want only vocals from all of you. Feel it in your core. Feel that consciousness. Feel that Shakti. And let's all sing together because singing is healing. Vibing is healing. Alright, are you guys ready? 1, 2, 3, go! Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Come on, everybody.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Feel it in your core.
Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya.
Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Come on. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. 1, 2, 3, Shambho.
Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya
जटा जूट में जटा for now, just for a minute, let's just chant Om for 3 times to get settled down, because otherwise we'll be all buzzing off. All right, everybody ready? Yeah. We just chant Om. Just have some silence. Take a deep breath, everyone. Let's just chant Om 3 times. Please have your seats. Thank you.
See, we didn't have you at the Beatles ashram, we have you now. We didn't have her at the Beatles ashram, we had her now. That's what we do at the Beatles ashram next year. Keep your microphone close back. Even better. This is all Shakti. Okay.
शाम को स्टेज पे हाँ मेरे साथ बैकअप करना हाँ बहुत बढ़िया वेरी गुड अभी ऑफ कर दीजिए जब हम बात करेंगे
Gange. Jai Gange. Can you hear me? Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for that experience of Shakti. That's how Shakti flows, unplanned. No plans, I had all these plans in my mind, and there we are dancing and enjoying and embracing that Shakti. I want you all to close your eyes for a moment. Just settle down. And try to observe that stillness within one. Which is not possible without Shakti. And that Shakti is incomplete without consciousness. Today we speak about the feminine consciousness, the Shakti, the heart of yoga. That Shakti which resides in each one of us in so many different forms, different emotions, movement, dance, breath, yoga, on the mat, off the mat, in every one of us, whatever form we've put on this planet Earth, we all have that divine Shakti within one. And that's the true and highest purpose of yoga, to find that balance and union between that Shakti and Shiva within each one of us. On that note, I would like to introduce our beautiful 4 goddesses sitting amongst all of us. You can open your eyes. So I would love to, it's an honor actually, to welcome Sadhvi ji. She's an inspiration to so many people across the world. Her service, her transformation, with all the work she does, the Divine Shakti Foundation and everything else. And she is the main Shakti of this International Yoga Festival 2026. And it's been happening for years and years. Thank you so much for this honor to welcome you. Thank you. And of course, we have Kia Miller-ji, an internationally renowned yoga teacher and founder of Radiant Body Yoga. She combines Kundalini and Tantra and shares yoga with movement, dance, breath, meditation, mantra. And it's such a pleasure to be sitting beside you. And Shiva Reji, thank you. I was actually trying to memorize everything and someone told me, no. And it's something that we don't plan because I want that Shakti to flow. Yes. So Shiva Reji, it was such a pleasure to have that moment with you yesterday. Thank you. And I would love to connect after as well. The founder of Prana Vinyasa, she's a visionary teacher. And with all those decades of visiting India, pilgrimage, and her understanding of Hindu Tattva, I would like to welcome her today. And Runa Rizvii Shivamani ji. Again, it was a pleasure to have a lovely chat with you yesterday. She is the daughter of Ustad Rajkumar Rizvii. and Runa Rizvii. She belongs to the Kalavant Grahat and is the 16th generation to carry forward in the Shakti form of Sufi devotion, whose music gently guides us into silence, surrender, and the divine within each one of us. So welcome everybody. And of course we have Ma Ganga flowing everywhere. I would recommend you take a dip, maybe right after the talk. I would highly recommend it. Amazing. So we are going to do a group dip tomorrow after the Beatles Maharishi Ashram, so we could keep that for tomorrow. All right, so I'm going to ask a few questions and then we open up to the audience if you have any other questions. Yeah? So I'll start with Sadhvi ji. Yeah. Given that India is the land of yoga and India is linked deeply with spirituality and yoga, what has been your experience in India as a female spiritual leader in a world that is so obviously a man's world? What has that been like for you?
First of all, I want to just take a moment to appreciate and celebrate that flow of Shakti. You know, when Ganga came on earth, first, from the heavens onto earth, long story, I won't go there, but another time. But when she came on earth, we're told that when she first came on earth, the flow was intractable, that it swept away pujas that were being done on the banks of Ganga, and that it was just this tumultuous flow. And that then Shiva agreed to have Ganga first flow into his locks and then back out onto the earth in a way that was more contained, one could say. And it's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story of the Shiva and the Shakti and all of that. And yet, there is something about the uncontained, unplanned power and flow of Shakti that, yeah, sometimes it wipes something away on the banks of the river, and yet fills that space with something so divine, so powerful, so unmatched in that presence of the raw Shakti. And as we walked in today, you know, we have our beautiful Parmarth team. We had literally our Rishi Kumar named Parmarth singing, Madhav playing. And we come in and it's just, yeah, they always play before these panels, and isn't that wonderful? And yet, Shakti meets Shakti, and something else emerges. Totally unplanned, uncontained. And isn't that beautiful? And isn't that powerful? And I just want to acknowledge it verbally for a moment. We all felt it. But so many of us, especially those in women's bodies, but not only those in women's bodies, grow with such a complex around what is proper and what is feminine and how we should be and how are good girls and how are ladies and we've got such a sense of what it's supposed to be, that we can miss the experience of what it just is when it is just allowed to be and the spaciousness is created. It's like, yeah, there's a riverbank, but hey, who's paying attention? Let's just flow over the riverbank. And what happens when we allow that uncontained energy to flow? And I want to just make sure that we note that for a moment, because it was exquisite and so powerful and so beautiful. And the way that everyone, the women, the men, allowed that Shakti to flow through in just a spontaneous, here we are in the flow of the Shakti way and what it manifests. So let's make sure that we never allow ourselves to pay any attention to that voice in our head that has internalized a voice from culture, a voice from society, a voice of fear, a voice of containment that says, well, that's not ladylike. Well, that's not what good girls do. Well, that's not feminine. Well, you should, and just hold this moment as a memory on the banks of Ganga, who lovingly, graciously, gracefully permitted herself to flow through Shiva's locks into the riverbank, and who periodically reminds us in various storms and monsoon seasons that it's all her Leela. And sometimes she permits herself to be contained and flow between the riverbanks. And sometimes she overruns them, reminding us, yes, and it is all that power of the feminine. So, with that, my experience here, it's interesting because it really is a yes and experience. It has definitely been a challenge because not only am I in a woman's body, but as you may have noticed, I'm in a white woman's body. And so not only is it a female in a world that is primarily men in the spiritual religious leadership, the monastic leadership of India, but also a non-Indian. It's definitely been a challenge, but it's been such an extraordinary personal opportunity, and I think this is what I'd want to share with you, because we all have challenges in life. Whether it's a challenge of being in a woman's body in a world that is primarily men's bodies, whether it's a challenge based on having a certain color of skin in a world where most people have a different color of skin, or a particular orientation, or religion, or way of thinking, or whatever it is. And for me, it's been really an experience of spaciousness, of yes and. And it began for me, this learning, back in 2013 in the Mahakumbh Mela. Now, a quick history. I've been in India since 1996. I officially took vows of sannyas, monastic initiation, renunciation, in the year 2000. In 2013, we were in the Mahakumbh Mela in Prayagraj, tens of millions of people, holiest place, confluence of Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati. And we're on stage at this massive event. And about 15 minutes into the program, and it's a stage filled with men in saffron robes, male religious spiritual leaders, a very typical Kumbh Mela stage. And about 15 minutes into it, one of the younger men in the service of the leader whose event it was comes up and whispers in my ear, and he says, "I'm so sorry, but this is a Mahatma stage, and I'm going to have to ask you to go into the audience." And he says, "Now we've put a beautiful chair there. You can see we've covered it respectfully with a saffron asana, a cloth." And he said, "But because it's a Mahatma stage, I'll have to ask you to be there." Now, those of you for whom Sanskrit is not a language you're that familiar with, the word Mahatma, while used colloquially to refer to male spiritual leaders, literally means great soul. Atma is soul. Maha is great. A Mahatma, like we say Mahatma Gandhi, Mahatma is a great soul. There is nothing semantically, etymologically, in the word that has anything to do with genitalia. It's about the soul. And yet, it is typically used to refer to the male leaders. So I rose humbly and I walked, not into the audience, into the chair, but out the back tented cover. And I walked down to the banks of the Sangam, where the three rivers come together. And as you can imagine, I was up to here with emotion, bubbling, overflowing. But my emotions were a pendulum swing between they are right, they must be right. This is a stage of a leader I respect and revere and love deeply. This is a stage that represents the Dharma, the tradition that I have adopted, that I love and revere deeply. Therefore, they must be right. And therefore, I must be wrong. Therefore, if they are right, it means that there is something fundamental about the body I am in, associated with my Atma, which is, I guess, less than Maha, that is not quite full, complete enough. And it swung from that end of the pendulum to the other end of the pendulum, which was the how dare they? What kind of world is this? What culture, what religion, what leaders? This incredible female body, like this is the goddess. And what is going on here? And we've got to fix it. And as I walked along the banks of the three holy rivers, my mind and my heart went like this. Because I was palpably aware on each end of the pendulum swing that wasn't it. And I finally sat down when I got to this confluence of the sacred rivers. And I sat in meditation, because my mind, as you can imagine, was all over the place. And so I sat in meditation until I could create within me an expanded spaciousness that allowed for the reverence, the sacredness, the power of not only the leaders on that stage, but the tradition, the religion under which they felt that it was an okay thing to do to remove me, and that simultaneously allowed for the very perfection, the highest level perfection perfection, completeness, wholeness of this extraordinary female body that my Maha-Atma chose to come onto earth with. And that practice of being able to sit in a yes and place became not only the way for me that I have navigated and negotiated the gender issues in a world of celibates. So theoretically, it really shouldn't matter, but nonetheless, to navigate and negotiate that. But even more deeply, it became a spiritual practice for everything that arose. It doesn't have to be I'm right, they're wrong, or they're right, I'm wrong. That deep dive into the very truth is a deep dive into spaciousness. So for me, that's how I've really navigated it. And just lastly, on a logistic level, I consider the fact that while I was kicked off that stage, I have been very, very, very respectfully brought onto, called onto innumerable stages, also surrounded by the revered male monastic community. And it's been an extraordinary blessing and an extraordinary opportunity because on almost all of those stages, not all, but almost all of them, I find myself the only woman. And being able to make sure that every girl and every woman in the audience sees that there is a woman on stage and that therefore the world of religion and the world of spirituality is not something that she's disqualified from, and that there is a place for her, has been for me a really powerful blessing of being able to, just with my presence, make sure that all of the women and the girls know, yes, there is space. We have to create it within us. And by creating that space in us, the space in our world opens up.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Kia Millerji, I think that's a really nice question I have for you right after. So how can we recognize and awaken that creative force, that Shakti within ourselves during times of challenge or transformation?
Thank you for that question. Thank you, Pujya. Sadhvi, it's so beautiful to be here with you, Shivaji, Unji. So, well, I can start, I think, by sharing with you one of the most profound awakening experiences I had, where I was doing a kriya, a really powerful naval kriya. Some of you might know it. It's called stretch pose in Kundalini Yoga. So you're lying on your back, you're in boat pose, Navasana, and you're doing breath of fire. And it takes every part of your being is engaged in holding you in that posture. So there's no part of you that's really left out. And so I did that for a couple of minutes, and then there's the moment of inhale, hold, and then exhale, relax. And something happened in the exhale, relax. It was like my all the masks that I'd been living behind in my life suddenly evaporated. And I had this palpable feeling of Shakti, of energy, that I remember thinking to myself, oh, that's who I am. It was an absolute revelation. Oh, that's who I am. You mean I'm not all of those masks that I've been wearing? Will you like me if I do this, or if I look like this? Or will you approve of me if I behave like this? Much to what Sadhvi was speaking about. Those masks, that's what dissolved. And what the experience initiated within me was a real sense of purpose, power, presence, and this activation of indomitable will. I had that feeling then. I was like, oh, I've got to explore this practice as far as it can take me. This has shown me and revealed to me what is possible. And so that was the beginning of my journey. And I have experienced over and over again how my commitment to that energy, the cultivation of my relationship to that energy has become the guiding force of my life. And if I'm following that force, I know I'm on track. I know that I'm living purposefully, that I'm accessing this sense of a purpose-driven life. And so my study of that has taken me into Tantra, because that's where the energy of Shakti, if Shiva is the pure consciousness, Shakti is the manifestation of that consciousness. What happened in me was I woke up that energy to the point where everything that had been holding my egoic self in place dissolved in the face of it. And if you look at some of the great yogic scriptures that speak to this, one that I've been delving into a lot lately is the Devi Mahatmya, or the Durga Saptashati, and that understanding that when challenge arises, there is a natural, simultaneous awakening of this creative energy within you that is rising up to meet the need of the moment. You see that when disease comes upon us, there's an aspect of our energy that is already cognizing what is happening and rising up to meet it. And when we heal ourselves and we co-create with that energy, we find real health. So it's that activation that really paves the way. In the Durga Saptashati, it's such an extraordinary revelation of Divine Mother. There's a few different episodes in that. There's the buffalo-headed one. I could think of a few buffalo-headed ones in the world right now that are creating havoc, and senselessly creating havoc. One perhaps couldn't even say that that is coming from what we might say an evil place, maybe just a place of what we would call avidya, of just not knowing. That energy rises up, it presents itself in a buffalo-headed one, and the Divine Mother, that Shakti, that energy, rises up to meet the moment. And in this case, as Durga, and slays the demon. There's a later demon that shows up that is called the smoky-eyed one. And this form of, I think, Saraswati, Ambika, shows up. And she's just the epitome of quiet, luminous energy. And faced with this smoky-eyed one that is a representation of our distorted thinking, of the clouds, the veils that cover us when we get caught in our mind, she just dissolves him or that being with a simple mantra, hum. And there's other examples within Durga Saptashati, but completely to this idea that whatever is arising for you in your life, and whatever is arising for us collectively, there is an equal force that is rising with it that has the complete power to dissolve that challenge. And I think for us to remember that, because when we feel disconnected from our Shakti, from our power, from that creative resource, from that manifestation of the all-knowing, when we're separate from that, we try to solve it at the level of our mind. And we drive ourselves crazy. We try to solve it at the level of violence, and we create more violence. But when we can do the practices that are necessary to awaken and align ourselves with this essential force of life that is not separate from you, it is part of you, it is me, it is Ganga, it is the manifestation of everything. When we tap into that, truly the miraculous becomes possible. Miraculous only in that it's not happening from the preconceived idea of the mind. It's just, to Sadhviji's point, it's an unfolding that happens when we activate the energy, we get out of the way, we find that place of deep internal trust, trusting that which we're hearing from within, trusting that which we're feeling, finding the way to navigate between our two extremes, which, how many of you find yourself caught in two extremes? Finding the way to find the yes and, so that the solution can flow forth. That's what I would have to say, so much in that. And I'm so grateful to be here and have an opportunity to share with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's always so nice to understand the scriptures and to see the different forms of the goddess in a deity. But when it comes to a human being, we tend to ignore and not accept every form of it. So it's so amazing to constantly remind us that there are different forms of the deity and different forms of us. So thank you so much for that. Thank you. Shiva Reji, can you throw some light on Sahaja Samadhi?
So, what an honor and pleasure to be here with these emanations of Devi, the Shining One. Thank you so much, Pujya Sadhvi, for creating this gathering space. And maybe we've heard of Sahaja. How many of you are in an active relationship with this? We can't call it a concept, but let's say Sahaja. Look how few of us raised our hands. And this has been my journey as a young yoga student who, came up at that time through. I have great respect and study in many traditional forms, and I feel like we have a responsibility to lineage to those forms. But just as Sadhviji was describing, really, who is the ultimate teacher? And yoga brings us to that tattva, Shiva tattva. And so I started to feel that there was something on top of yoga. Just like when we go into urban environments and we see that our living earth has been covered. And that covering of our living earth is really where we see a real profound problem that has happened in our collective history that is right there. We're missing her story. And what has happened to the covering of the earth is what has happened to all of us, but particularly to women and vulnerable and rainbow beings, where the suppression of the earth, the disconnection from the earth, the disconnection from sacred embodiment, transcendence, and the oppression, which is what led me to the World Arts and Culture program to study a very rare field, dance ethnology, we can say dance anthropology, the history of movement, the herstory of movement. And we see that that oppression continued in dance and movement. And I started to go to sacred sites all over the world, and also for the last 8 years to the Chowsat Yogini temples, particularly in Madhya Pradesh, where we often hear the history of yoga begins in Mohenjo-daro. And I want to speak to that in a moment. But we don't think of the longer history, such as in Bhimbetka, which is in Madhya Pradesh, where I went, and I was actually the only person who was there. And you know that India has the largest collection of rock art in the world? We would think it would be in Africa. I'm very deeply connected to the motherland. And there I went into the caves, and you could see the havan, the fire altars, and you could see the paintings of beings holding hands, dancing. You could literally see the mridanga, double-sided drum. And the dating goes back 25,000 years. Some of these rock art that I was talking to you about, 10,000 BC. And so it feels like we have many things that have been lost in translation. And that even in our lifetime, we will hear a different herstory of Mohenjo-daro. That it was primarily a matrilineal culture. The women held great power. Yesterday I was talking about Gigantia, one of the oldest, it's in Malta. And it's the oldest standing temple, circular temple for Great Mother. And what they see in the archaeology is they can't find any harm to any beings. Of course, they see that there was some disease, but they don't see any war, any signs of war for 1,000 years. We never hear of this her story. We think that peace is something that we've never experienced. And so that lack of the her story, and even realizing that in Mohenjo-daro, there are, tens of thousands of goddess figurines, just like in all of the sites throughout Europe that connect to my ancestral places. And when we go to these ancient temples today, such as Avebury, the circular stone temples just outside of London, what is there? A road that goes through it. A pub in the middle of these stone circles. You go to Delphi, the oldest site of Gaia, original sites of Earth Mother. What is there? A road. It was actually covered over, only dug up 100 years from now. Same when we go to the Chowsat Yogini temples, some of the oldest temples in India. If we go to Khajuraho, we see the 64, it's rare it's in a square, but most are in a circle, but open-aired. There's no image of Devi. It's been cut out. When you go to Beragat, to the circular Chowsat Yogini temples, every form of Devi has been cut. Face, body parts. And I've wept in these temples because this is what's happening in the world. This dismemberment, it's for all of us, we're all her children. This lack of protection of children. What has happened to us when we grow up as these balls of love And we know that this is front and center right now in the world. And this is Shakti rising, as has been described. I think of in Iran, the oppression of dance. Can you imagine not being able to dance? Not even just like, okay, a year. I mean, that it's unsafe to dance. This is what happened in Europe in medieval times. It was illegal to dance. So we started to assume, as Sadhvi ji was saying, that this, I don't dance, I don't move. This oppression of our creative energy is something that is the way. So what started to happen to me, I was in a very structured form, beautiful. I have deep respect for all teachers. But also I could feel something was deeply in imbalance. And actually it was. Let's just call it direct. All of the cleaning up of abuse in the name of yoga. And unfortunately it's happened to everybody, but it has primarily happened to women. In all fields, including in the arts, this now has been an empowerment of everybody to know that this is not dharma. No, there should be no harm to any beings, particularly to women, in the name of any spiritual practice, right? Yes? And this brings us to Matsyendranath, who became linked to the Chausat Yogini temples and later Gorakshnath, and probably there was some distortions of the myths. But this understanding that Sa, the birth note that gives birth, Sa, Sahaja, is the natural arising of the bliss and intelligence of consciousness. So while I was in my self-practice at home and I would come out of an asana, when you're in a collective practice, it's one breath onto the next. But I would always see Devi's feet. And when I was in self-practice, that transmission took away anything mechanical, took away the excess doing. And she started to teach me from within. And particularly when you're carrying a child, you get this transmission of the power of the life force. And so I went through a big transformation when I became a mother, and I couldn't go back. This became awakened as a yogini, as a sadhaka, and then it became even more blasted open through the birthing process, which can be in any form for all of us. The birthing process is sometimes messy, unknown. They say if you saw the birth process, you would try and stop it because it looks so messy. It looks like something terrible is happening, right? But I was birthed into Shakti sadhana. And I started to also see what happened to the female teachers. Why we think that this is a male tradition is because her story has not been told. I think of the Sapta Rishis, which I have such respect for, but we hear of Agastya, but we don't hear of Lopamutra. There were 22 Rishikas. She is in the Lalita Sahasranama. And when I received initiation from my Satguru, Mata Amritanandamai, that's our primary text. And we find the chakra system connected to the yoginis, to the swaras. And we find this invocation of Sahaja, Samadhi, as being the goal of yoga, is that now we are at one with this flowing consciousness. Now we've surrendered our doing. The whole world is part of what covered the earth, what split us inside our body. That doing ahead of the intelligence. Artificial intelligence, one thing about it is speed. This thing, let's all get into it because it makes everything quicker. This quickness is leading to many problems, right? It's a metaphor And so Sahaja Samadhi is this trusting of Ma Shakti, Shiv Shakti, flowing through us all, leading us in our dharma, in our destiny. And sometimes that's going to involve questioning if we see harm or we feel fragmentation. As Sadhviji was teaching us, go to our heart. Think of the examples like Pujya Swami of beings who are so powerful in what they're supporting, but are so humble. Any of you ever study with some crazy wisdom teachers that you kind of accepted as Kyo saying, for their authority? Anyone have any teachers, crazy wisdom teachers? Oh, no one? Good. But you don't have to second guess. If there's not respect, then Ma Shakti is not present. This is the basis, this love and respect. So, bowing to that Shiva Tattva, bowing to Shakti and all of you, and thank you so much for gathering us. And let's keep uncovering the her story. It's our story. I think in the future it won't be his story, her story. It'll be our story. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm sure it's inspired so many people to go back and learn more about Sahaja Samadhi. I'm sure it has awakened something within me. So thank you for that. Runa Rizvii Ji, I mean, we can really feel that Shakti arising from you when you're performing, and yeah, thanks for that amazing opening Shakti for all of us. Thank you. And the question for you is coming from an intercaste upbringing. What is your experience with music and spirituality?
Namaskar, Pranam, Adab, Jai Ganga. Pranam to Pujya Sadhvi Ji, Kya Miller Ji, Pranam, beautiful Shiva Ji, and the wonderful Aadhya Ji. I have really honored to be here today, to have this opportunity to speak my heart, to speak for the Shakti within me. I've been coming to Parmarth because of my husband, the great Shivamani Ji. I also look upon to him as my guru. It's my father as my guru and my husband as my guru. And because of these gurus, I have met great gurus like Pujya Swamiji, Sadhviji. They say that when you sit next to a guru or an enlightened soul or a yogi who has submitted their lives to discipline, to wisdom, to knowledge, you will, like how Sadhviji beautifully quoted yesterday, have you ever seen a dog come out of a river? When the dogs have a bath in the river and come out, they shake. And while they're doing that, the drops of water will spread around, it'll get, if you're around it, you will definitely get a splash of it. That's how the power of knowledge of an enlightened soul is. So we are sitting next to Sadhviji, Pujya Swamiji, and just getting those little bit drops of knowledge and enlightenment, just being next to them. About what Aadhya has asked. So I come from an intercaste, my parents, my father is a Rajput Muslim, my mother is a Bengali Brahmin. And I want to share the experience just like Sadhviji said, of the Maha-Atma. So you all understood what Maha-Atma is, right? Maha, great. Atma, soul, right? You get it, right? Okay, great. So Mahatma, I want to add one more line here. How does the Mahatma enter this Maya world without the Mahashakti? There is no door to this world without the Mahashakti. The Mahatma has to come in the womb of Mahashakti to enter this world. So who is the real Mahatma? Who is the real Mahatma? Well, please, all the men, I'm not trying to undermine you here. You are very important. Just like Shiva cannot create without Shakti, Shakti cannot create without Shiva. You're equally important. But yesterday, our Balamurli Krishna Acharyaji was here. He said a beautiful line that yoga is not about breathing and doing postures and head to toe and dhanurasana, dhanushasana. It is about moving within, finding your consciousness within. I would, with utmost humility, humbleness, want to add one more line to it, with your permission. That's what I felt last night, and I felt like I will say it on the panel today, shamelessly, but I will. Because I'm the Shakti, and I would take chances and not be scared. Because why do I hold back? I learned from Ganga never to hold back. So, Acharyaji said, yoga is not about movement, not just about movement and breathing. It is about moving within. It is about consciousness within. Arising your consciousness within. I say it is about arising your female, your Shakti consciousness within. Now, this is not just for women, for everyone. Just imagine if men arise their Shakti consciousness within, how beautifully aligned we all will be. Finally, we as men and women can meet at a certain point. Not come here, but meet somewhere at a common space. So I love to talk, by the way. When I was a kid, my mom said, just shut up, sit down, don't talk. So they give me the mic, that's it, it's gone, okay. All right. So I want to share a small incident when I was 10 years old. My father, it was the great day of Eid, when we celebrate Ramzan, all the fastings are over and we celebrate Eid. And my father, the visionary he was, because from my childhood I saw, we read the Quran, we saw Shiva, we saw Krishna. We had a beautiful amalgamation of all the religions in my house. We were never taught anything. We were only taught music and humanity. And he said, there shouldn't be any tear in anybody's eyes. You don't hurt anyone. That's the only religion you follow. Rest everything else, God will take care. So he happened to just decide, okay, Runa is going to come with me to the mosque. And I was just 10. I had no idea about, because we had the Gita, we had the Quran in our house. Both books were beautifully celebrated. I walked with my father, walked into the mosque, and usually there is a, respectful segregation for women and men. And my father didn't leave me in the women's section. He took me in the men's section. And there were thousands of men, and I was the only little girl there, or the little Shakti there, if I may just say like that. And there was someone who said very politely, or not so very politely, that, excuse me, sir, girls are not allowed here. And the visionary that my father was, he always taught us, a place where you cannot ask questions is not the right place. You ask questions, and you better get the answers. Or if you don't find the answers, you go within, and you will find the answer. That's what I've been following all my life. I ask questions. So my father said, well, she's going to stay with me. This girl ain't going nowhere. She stays here. And they said, no, it's not allowed, and it's, And he said, but why is it not allowed? And he said, no, but it's, He said, I'm sorry, but my daughter stays here. I stood there for the entire prayer. I was the only girl between thousands of men. And I was so uncomfortable at that point because I didn't understand why my dad did that. But that was the moment that something shifted in me. And today, when I stand and I realize what is the real purpose of my life, to stand for who I am. Because to be free, I need to be me. Right? So to be you, you need to be free in any atmosphere you are. Doesn't matter where you come from. I feel that as a human being, as this body that we come into this world, trust me, I'm just copying Sadhvi ji right now because I love when she talks. When she talks, I'm in awe. I just watch her. So whatever you see me doing right now, I'm copying her. I'm a very good shishya. So whatever we are as human beings in this life, if we do not have that kind of a sensitivity or emotion that we can adapt our belief system to anything and find our God or something that we can connect to. Find the peace when I take a round at the Kaaba. Same peace I find at the church. Same peace I find when I'm doing a dip in Ganga. So as human beings, we need to come to that level of consciousness. And I think that is what is true consciousness and the real Sangam, marriage, amalgamation of Shiva and Shakti. Thank you. I told you, don't give me the mic.
That's why I asked you the question in the end. Thank you so much. I can relate to that so much because my origins are from Iran and I was brought up by two parents who are both Iranian, who just moved to India 45 years ago, and I was maybe 12 or something, and I asked my parents, why are there so many buildings? Why are people going to different buildings to worship? Why can't they just all be in one building? And that's because my parents never taught me any religion. In fact, my brother, when he grew up, he said, why didn't you teach us Islam? And because he had friends who followed a path, and we were just liberal to do whatever we wanted. And I'm so grateful that they gave us that opportunity to just be ourselves and to embrace that Shakti and Shiva within. Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful talk.
I would like to add a line here because, I am, apart from being a singer, I sing Sufi kalams and bhajans and bhakti geets and spiritual songs. So by these great poets, there was a great poet, Sant Kabir. I'm sure Sadhvi ji would translate it for you, all of you. Because, certain things are like Shakespeare. If you translate it in Hindi, you would not get the exact essence of what he tried to say. Same way, when we speak in Hindi or Urdu or Braj Bhasha, the essence or the real meaning of those words would translate or transcend in the true meaning if they are said in the same language. So I would say a quote by Kabir. That is the epitome of my life. Ki chahe Gita bachiye ya padhiye Quran. Chahe Gita bachiye ya padhiye Quran. Jo man bache apna, wohi hai insan. Sadhvi, would you like to translate it?
Yeah, just take one of the greatest poets who's ever lived and take his exquisite words and his natural tongue and translate them into a different language. Impossible, of course, but the gist is, regardless of which scripture you are reading or chanting, is it the Quran, is it the Gita, the true human, the real human. When we say insan, we don't mean those who happen to just be born with the DNA that we call human, but we really mean those who have embodied and embraced humanity, all of those aspects of humanity. Insan includes the best of that makes us human. And so it says whether you are reading and chanting the Gita or the Quran, it doesn't matter. But the real human is the one in whose heart, in whose inner aspects, their bhitar, their deepest sense of self, that's the scripture. That those words, those teachings, that presence is actually within us. It's not about reading, it's not about chanting. It's about having it beat with our heart, having it be inside of us. And that's what really connects us to our deepest humanity.
Thank you, Sadhviji. And as Pujya Swami Guruji said yesterday, you all are welcome to your home, Himalayan home. I will never forget the day. Today I have got this chance, I will say it. When me and Shivamani ji got married, we walked into the ghats and there was a huge poster outside that had our marriage picture, our wedding picture, and it says, Runa and Shivamani, welcome to your Himalayan home. This love, unconditional love that we have got, I have got, he's getting more than me, because he's been here around more than me. But I would give up anything in life for that. And as Guruji said, when you all are here, don't just see, but be. Be the yoga. And I'm going to add one more line, that don't just flow, but glow. Glow within. Jai Ganga. Please give a round of applause for the lovely, the artists who were performing before us, who came in. They're not here, but let's give a round of applause for them. Thank you, Aadhya, for curating this beautiful. Thank you, Sadhviji. Thank you, Kia Millerji. Thank you, lovely Shivariyaji, for this opportunity. Thank you all.
So we can open to our lovely yogis. If you have any questions, we do have a floating mic moving around. Just raise your hand and you can ask your question to any of them.
Sure. When you ask your question, share with us your name and share with us where you're from, and then ask your question.
Namaste, Satnam. My name is Timela, and I'm from the United Kingdom, London. Beautiful conversation. Thank you very much. We live in very difficult energy. We really need Shakti to rise and the I'm sorry. Okay. So we live in very difficult times, very hard times, and these are times where we need more Shakti energy, and this is why we've been talking about Shakti rising and the divine feminine energy rising. This is our time. This is the time of Shakti to rise. But dear Sadhviji, my question is, how or what would be the most kindest and compassionate way to explain the goddess energy to individuals that perhaps just don't identify themselves with neither masculine or feminine, or don't understand goddess energy, especially as you as a spiritual leader, female spiritual leader, that speaks to masses, inspire all generations and young generations coming up, emerging now. How would you explain to them about Shakti energy and goddess energy? Thank you very much. And Kia, your words really resonated with me. So thank you so much again to all of you. Thank you.
So it's a great question, and she's absolutely right that this is a time where we really do need that energy. Not exclusively, by any means, but we need the integration of the masculine with the feminine. And the way that I would explain that feminine energy is actually exactly the way that Kia spoke about it, where she said, you know, that the energy of Shiva, this is from our sacred spiritual tradition, the energy of Shiva is the energy of pure consciousness, unchanging, eternal, what we call Purush, that energy of just pure consciousness. Prakriti, Shakti, is the energy of manifestation. So we believe, our spiritual tradition believes that we are one unbroken consciousness, an infinite ocean. Lots of waves, but all of the waves being inseparable from the ocean, therefore inseparable from each other. The ultimate highest truth of each wave being ocean, even as we recognize and celebrate the wave presence as our karmic package, our karmic journey, our incarnation, our dharma. Those are qualities of the wave. But our highest truth is ocean. And in the same way, our highest, deepest, most eternal truth is unchanging consciousness. And we have this extraordinary gift of manifestation. Here we are, unmanifest, no hugs, no dancing, no ecstatic tears, no yoga, no Ganga. Shakti is the power. It is the presence of the creation. It is the presence of nature, the word Srishti, the word Prakriti, creation, nature, the energy of that, Shakti. It's all feminine. So the way that I would explain that, I guess, to people for whom these are not words that are familiar, is the divine feminine energy is the energy of manifestation. It's not a coincidence that it is within her womb that life is created. Not to the exclusion of men, and that's why it's an integration. You obviously need something to fertilize it, to make it happen, some raw material, you could say. Like you can't have a wave without the ocean. You couldn't say, forget the whole ocean thing, I'm just wave. Well, the moment you forget the ocean thing, the wave disappears. So the creation is predicated upon that integration, and yet it is manifested quite literally in the womb of the woman. That energy is the energy of manifestation. It is the energy of presence. It is the energy of nature. It is the energy of creation. And all of us, we need both. The entire world needs both. This is the non-negotiable of existence. If we are only movement and manifestation and creation, well, then we get destroyed. The law of nature is that which is created changes and is destroyed. And if we forget that Shiva energy, well then, oh my God, I've got wrinkles. Oh my God, I'm going to die. Oh my God, my skin is sagging. Oh my God, I'm degenerating. If all I am is this manifest being and not the pure consciousness, well, that is super stressful. That is the ground upon which competition, exploitation injustice, harm is created. I want that. Give me that. You're not going to give it to me? I'll take it from you. So we need both. And I think I would try to explain it in a way that is not, oh, we need the feminine to the exclusion of the masculine. But the explanation that these are energies that must exist for us to be in balance. They must exist together, interwoven, interlinked, and in our awareness and in our life. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure being here.
Speak a little bit more loudly. Thank you.
Better? Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. My question, I'll try to put it across through an example. It's probably for everybody, but more specifically for you, since you come from an intercaste background. We all understand that the highest religion is the religion of humanity. But the example I'm going to take is the discussion that I have with my elders who specifically go all the way back to the times of partition, independence, who have firsthand had the experience of uncertain times and the cruelty. And the discussion ultimately reaches the stage that where was humanity in those times? We ultimately ended up fighting in the name of religion. So the question I have is that in such times, in the times of uncertainties, the violence, the war, how do we train our brain to not judge and label things as good and bad? Thank you.
It's a challenging question. Thank you for that question. Well, my forefathers have also seen the partition. Half of my family lives in Pakistan, my father's previous, their ancestors. So people who have seen the pain, and I would say this, that when a man or a human being is caught up in this kind of a riot situation, somehow we humans, we forget the lines between wrong or right, good or bad. Osho said in one of his beautiful lectures that when a mob is attacking a temple or a mosque or a religious fort, there is a mob. There is never a single person. You will never see a single person attacking. That is because when you are alone, your brain doesn't have that kind of sensibility to do something so beyond your capacity, which is because you know what is right and what is wrong. But when you're in a mob, you lose that sensibility, that line of goodness and bad. You forget that. To your question, how do you keep yourself aligned and, in that momentum away from judging who's right, who's wrong? First of all, to begin with, you're at the right place. And I feel, as coming from an Indian origin, we have the privilege and understanding to find a guru. That is the biggest blessing, because that is beyond any religion. Because the guru will be the door of moksha, you know that. So I think in times, that's why, even in, when people say, oh, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in this, I don't believe in that. But we do believe in something. These are the times when that belief system rises up. Just like in Amavasya, the level of the sea rises up, and they say that you meditate all night because the level of water is high. The same way in the times of war is the time you raise your vibrations high. And I would suggest, align with your real being of that humanity, that humane in you, beyond that religion. And of course, try not to judge that because so-and-so did this, so this person or this community is like this, or this person is like this. We have to see beyond that. But this is possible when you have a guru. Because as humans, we are very हम कहते हैं हम गलती के पुतले हैं. Sorry, I had to burst into Hindi. That means we are puppets of mistakes. Am I right? So we will do mistakes, but when you have a guru behind you, he will tell you, no, calm down. This is the time to do more yoga, to go within. So, well, find a guru, find your alignment. Thank you. I hope that was. Do we have any more questions?
We do, but we don't have more time. We have to let people go. Yeah. They have class in 10 minutes.
So we are out of time, but of course they are with us for the next few days, and you can ask your questions sometime, somewhere, and I'm sure you'll get your answer. Even just sitting by the banks of Mother Ganga, sometimes you just get your answers. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. Thank you all so much. Stay.
Jai Ganga, could I just have, ask everybody to give us a hand stacking up the chairs on the side, please? It would be very much appreciated.